Good evening, students. Last week we had our introduction lecture and we spoke on chapter 1, Introduction to Business Management. This week we'll be speaking on entrepreneurship, which is a concept on chapter 2. Now, we also mentioned the fact that market economy is basically the bedrock of most economy if they want to grow. And underlining this market economy is entrepreneurship. So this section will be discussing entrepreneurship. Now, there's this decision as to who decides what to produce, by whom, and for what products. Basically, these decisions lies in the entrepreneur. And we should also emphasize the fact that entrepreneur or entrepreneurship are often basically used to describe small businesses, or let's say people misjudge it for small businesses. Entrepreneurship actually goes beyond small businesses. So in this section, basically these are what we are going to discuss about. We will define the term entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. We'll discuss the two concepts, describe the roles of entrepreneurs and small businesses in the economy, explain how to become an entrepreneur, comment on the skills and resources required to become an entrepreneur, identify and describe the different ways of entering the business world, present recommendations regarding the choice of business opportunity, and elaborate on what a feasibility study is and its value to the entrepreneur. So we say that entrepreneur is somebody who decides on what, how, and by whom and for whom products and services should be produced. An entrepreneur is somebody who starts a business with the intention of making profit and assumes the risk of losing all his or her resources in venture or fails. Now, most people have often used entrepreneurship or have often misinterpreted entrepreneurship as with small businesses. However, we should understand that entrepreneurship goes beyond small businesses. Small businesses are not necessarily entrepreneur or entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship basically should be able to combine the other 4 factors of production, which we discussed in our previous lecture, which include natural resources, human resources, financial resources, and the entrepreneur himself or herself. So entrepreneur is the factors that mobilizes the 3 other resources and combine them to achieve output or produce a product to satisfy the needs of society. An entrepreneurship is therefore a process of creating and building something of value from practically nothing in the midst of uncertainty and risk, having the determination to succeed against all odds. By knowing what drives entrepreneurs and how they identify and assess businesses, basically, we will be able to understand how business organizations functions. We continue our discussion to explain what an entrepreneur is. And we should know that entrepreneurs have been viewed in a different aspect depending on different scientific groups. So we're going to just briefly analyze some basic concepts and how they basically explain what an entrepreneur is. So something like economists subscribe to the view that entrepreneurs are basically those who combine the factors of production to achieve products and services to make profits. If we also look at concepts such as the behaviorists, and the behaviorists here, we are considering psychologists, and sociologists. Basically, they tend to focus on the behavioral aspect of entrepreneurs. So psychologists describe entrepreneurs according to their characteristics. For example, the achievement orientation and the propensity towards creativity and risk-taking. When you talk of the Marxist group, they regard entrepreneurs as exploiters. Corporate managers also see entrepreneurs as small operators who lack potential to manage large enterprises. Proponents of the market economy see entrepreneurs as the driving force responsible for the prosperity of an economy. With this in mind, then we should also know that in terms of business management also has its way of viewing who an entrepreneur is. So so we continue. In business management, we have a way of viewing who an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur is one creative. And here, when we talk of creativity, should have the ability to produce new and original ideas. That is, the entrepreneur has the ability to produce new and original ideas to solve a problem. Then we can also talk about have innovative ideas. That is, in this situation, the entrepreneur use ideas to develop a better product or services. It uses ideas to develop a better product or services. An entrepreneur also identifies opportunity. And here we talk about the fact that he creates unlimited needs for people and trends that appear in the environment. Another also view in my business management about entrepreneurs is that they find resources to pursue opportunities for financial gain. And here the finding of resources is not just on financial resources, but include natural resources, human resources that will be combined together to achieve the needed profit they want to achieve. An entrepreneur also takes financial risk. Here, he stands a chance of either gaining or losing the money that has been invested in the business organization. Another angle we can also view an entrepreneur is that they bring about change, growth, and wealth in an economy. An entrepreneur, as we discussed in our previous lecture, an entrepreneur basically is the one who creates employment, gives job opportunity, and is also forms the basis of the economic growth of most economy. An entrepreneur regenerates economies and create jobs, as I have rightly said, and also starts and manages small businesses. The entrepreneur is able to grow small businesses and is able to make sure they grow in a sustainable way to ensure profitability of businesses. An entrepreneur also can be viewed in a different perspective. And if we follow Dollinger's 1995 concept of 8 to 9, he presents the inclusive nature of many disciplines in entrepreneur. We can look at entrepreneur in the concept of historian, anthropologist, geographers, sociologists, psychologists, and all of these have different views of how we should view an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs throughout the world are now revitalizing economies by establishing new businesses. If you look at Europe, about 90% of businesses and small and medium-sized enterprises in Europe, more than 90% of businesses and small and medium-sized enterprises, and they contribute about 53% to the employment sector. In sub-Saharan African countries, the same small and medium-sized enterprises contribute at about 90% to the employment sector. This shows how important entrepreneurship is to every economy. We can also look at the trend of South Africans' growth rates. The growth in South Africa has declined over the past few years, and basically growing at an average of about 6% is needed in terms of economic growth. Though due to the COVID pandemic, last year we recorded a negative growth rate, and it has been declining since then. we are hoping that this year the projection will show a positive growth from the recovery of the economy. Contribution of entrepreneurs is relied on for a large part of the growth of the GDP of South Africa. Entrepreneurship is considered as a scarce resource in South Africa. South Africans' rate of entrepreneurial activity is lower than it would be expected. This implies that there is more room for us to develop the South African entrepreneurial concept and ensure that we increase our entrepreneurial base to propel the economy, because it's basically the bedrock of each and every economy. One thing maybe I could add to this discussion is that if we look at the employment strain of most economies, South Africa alone, the government is now cannot employ all people. So through entrepreneurs, it is through the entrepreneurs that we can employ substantial sector, can employ majority of the new entrants into the job market. Notwithstanding that there have been some successful entrepreneurs in the economy. We can make mention of Thomas Oppenheimer, started Anglo-American. We can also mention Anton Rupert, for the founder of Rembrandt, Remgro, and Richmond. We can also talk about Cyril Ramaphosa, the founder of Sanduka. Ferdinand Chivwa developed the creepy Crawley pole cleaning product. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. These are some entrepreneurs in South Africa and across the globe. So it is, important that we make sure that we sustain entrepreneurship activity. And I hope at the end of this course, most of the students on this platform will have some entrepreneurial skills, some business ideas, and they will work towards achieving. And in near future, your name will also be mentioned as the greatest entrepreneurs in South Africa. Now we move on to the role of entrepreneurs and small businesses in society. Now, we have been able to distinguish that entrepreneurship goes beyond ownership of small businesses. However, they are both, they both play significant role in the economy. Now, one important role is that they mobilizes resources, human or financial resources to produce need products for society. They are also involved in wealth creation. Entrepreneurship and business are also offer job opportunity. They can also make mention of the fact that they are the source of economic growth and social development of every economy. And entrepreneurship also brings about other factors of production into motion. They are also mobilizes or inspire self-efficacy, creativity, skills, and expectations of individuals. So when the entrepreneurship is no more, it's more like machines do not work. So these are some of the benefits entrepreneurship or the role they play in the economy. You can make mention of others. They also have qualities and are real valuable. They have greater employment opportunities. They have mobilized resources of the economy. They inspire economic growth. They develop the skills of people, skills, creativity, self-efficacy of individuals. However, given these rules, we can also make mention of distinguish between entrepreneurs and small-owned businesses. So the distinctions, though on the screen, let me just quickly give some to speak to it. Entrepreneurship satisfies the needs and wants by mobilizing natural, human, and financial resources. However, the small-owned businesses satisfy needs by way of earning personal income. Entrepreneurship are responsible for the growth and survival of the business. Responsible with small-owned businesses, they are basically responsible for the survival and profitability of businesses. The entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs likely to take risk in order to grow their businesses, while with small-owned businesses, they have no drive to undertake risk to develop their businesses. So basically, these are some few distinctions between an entrepreneur and small-owned businesses. And we've also been this slide, we also discussed the role of entrepreneurs and businesses to the society. In this chapter, our next discussion is on why do entrepreneurs do what they do? What inspires entrepreneurs? And here we are going to discuss this concept under by looking at three main themes. Now, basically, these three main categories of initiating or people venturing into entrepreneurs will look at their traits and their characteristics, their skills and industry experience, and the opportunity arising from owing to international trends towards outsourcing. So these are the three main things we are going to discuss and what basically lies under what entrepreneurs do, what they do. And when we take each of these three concepts, you realize that they will can also have different concepts to discuss under each of these three. So we first of all start with entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial traits and characteristics. Now, basically, when you talk of the traits and characteristics, basically these are more of the individual, the inner motivations, or the external motivations. So the trait under traits and characteristics, we can mention of achievement motivation. We can mention of achievement motivation. So this one goes in hand with ambition and competitiveness. People would want to achieve, are motivated to become entrepreneurs because they want to compete. They have an ambition. These are individual, self-looking individual goals. So these are what entrepreneurs basically look out for. For example, if you talk of people like McDonald, sorry about the background noise, and can continue. So when you talk of achievement motivation, it's basically characterized by intense, prolonged, and repeated effort to accomplish something that is difficult. Such a person will basically would want to work individually to attain his goals. He has a personal goal and tries to work to accomplish those goals. We can also talk about internal locus of control. So under internal locus of control, basically, it means a person needs to be in charge of his or her own destiny. That is, a person must be in control of his or own vision. And basically, external control, we can also talk about the external locus of control, which indicate that a person believes that the outcome of an event is primarily out of his or her control. So when a person has that belief that whatever outcome or whatever thing he's focusing his mind to do is inspired by his own innate characteristics, or he has control over whatever the future will have or will avail, then that is basically forms under what you call the internal locus of control. We can also talk about innovation and creativity, help existing business to improve their ways their products and services are made and delivered. So one other things about innovation and creativity, though they move hand in hand, is that we should bring on board new things to even to some existing. For example, in terms of packaging, in terms of how the thing may be. It is not about just bringing something new in existence, but even existing service. How do you innovatively bring a new change to that so that people will have a new mindset to it? These are some of the personal traits of entrepreneurs. These are some of the traits of entrepreneurs. We can also talk about risk taking. Then here, when you talk of risk taking, because entrepreneurship must know when to invest, when not to invest, because business environment is being subjected to issues of fluctuations, either coming from exchange rates, depreciation of the currency, or currency fluctuations, if I should put it in general. So if you are putting money in an offshore, or if you are undertaking investment and you do not consider all these external factors that can affect the business, then that business may be maybe going to or maybe a loss to the entrepreneur. So, and as an entrepreneur, you must consider or calculate all these risks to know that is it a viable investment or is it a viable business for me to venture in. And the last thing about the entrepreneur is other traits. And here, when you talk of other traits, we can talk about the person's level of energy, the confidence, the future orientation, optimism, the desire to work for feedback, high tolerance for ambiguity, flexibility, adaptation, passion, commitment and determination, opportunity, orientation, and motivation to excel. These are all what we can talk about the entrepreneur traits and characteristics. The next thing for us to also talk about, we can also talk about the entrepreneurs skills and industry experience. As I said, we have 3 categories. So under entrepreneur skills and industry, basically the factors that drives people to become entrepreneurs are people having the skills, people having the knowledge, and this can be acquired through basically experience, training, or education in a specific field. And we can also make mention about the fact that people identify opportunity. They identify an opportunity, establishing a business, and they believe that they can manage it well. Also, we can also talk about the quest for independence here through job satisfaction or people's quest to become financially independent, not being controlled by other people, will drive people to become entrepreneurs. Under this section too, we've also been able to identify 2 types of entrepreneurs that we call the necessity entrepreneur and the opportunity entrepreneur. So here, necessity entrepreneur basically is an individual who was entrenched from his job and start a business to support his family. So for example, in South Africa, the experience of being unemployed may trigger some people to become entrepreneurs. And this is what we've called about. So you don't want to be unemployed. You cannot, look at the nature or the pressure from family. Looking at you have a family, you cannot go unemployed. So you are forced to engage in an activity and become an entrepreneur. So this is what we call a necessity and a necessity entrepreneur. And the opportunity entrepreneur is somebody who identifies an opportunity in the market and utilize that opportunity to create something or to make something for himself. Basically, that becomes an opportunity entrepreneur. So we will continue our discussion with the 3rd category of entrepreneurship, which basically looks at the opportunity arising from outsourcing. So the 3rd category basically look at for outsourcing, and opportunities may arise from outsourcing. Here, outsourcing basically occurs when work is done for a company by people outside the company's full-time employees who have the necessary skills to complete specific tasks. This is basically common in our age today. Usually, work is done by a company's 3rd person. So when you talk of outsourcing, for example, when a company asks another company to do something, that person doing it is not a full-time worker of that company. So you employ the services of somebody to do something for you. So for example, let's take, for example, a university. For example, university employs or asks somebody to undertake a research project for the university or to do something. It's a means of what? Outsourcing. And this is also common in South Africa. So for most state agencies, which we know that they have, a financial auditor or something, but however, will employ the services of, an external service, a financial service auditor, such as the Deloitte KPMG, to handle their auditing services and tax and advisory requirement. This is what we term or means as outsourcing. Outsourcing. We should also know that there are other reasons for entrepreneurship, and when we read the chapter, we will be able to explain or we'll be able to get more information on the other means of outsourcing. In this section, we continue our discussion with the entrepreneurial process. So in the entrepreneurship, it basically involves certain series of process and a framework. So the chart you see is a framework of decision making about new venture. So basically, we start with the first, that is the personal trait, ability, and the skills of the owner of the business have a profound influence on the success and failure of the business. Therefore, what we want to say here is that before entering into the business world, any potential entrepreneur should first clarify whether he or she has what it takes to do. So the person must have the skills and the ability to undertake such. The next we can also look out for in the plan or in the chart is the creation of new venture. Is the creation of new venture in the quest of resources. So rather access to resources. Without access to entrepreneurship and financial, natural, human resources, necessary for the establishment of businesses. So first you have to know that you have the skills for the job, and you have to the decision to become entrepreneur. You have to know that you have the skill for the job. You also must know that you should be able to identify the resources. And the next thing is about the opportunities and ideas. So another critical aspect of entrepreneurship process is the realistic objective assessment and opportunity that entrepreneur is pursuing. Once opportunity has been identified, so we are saying that once you've been able to identify the opportunity, an entrepreneur needs to find out if it can turn it into a successful venture. You should do a feasibility studies to know whether this is a viable venture you should engage in or not. Another process, so we have talked about the feasibility. So an entrepreneur has certainty about, here we have certainty about the venture. He or she needs to compile a business plan. So you should have a business plan. And after the feasibility has been established and the resources have been acquired, the entrepreneur must launch and manage the new businesses. So basically, these are the process in the framework for decision making. The first thing is the decision for the decision to become an entrepreneur. That is whether you should enter the business world or not. You should know that you have the skills and ability to engage in the business. You should be able to identify the needed resources. You should also be able to identify an opportunity. Then here, once you identify an opportunity, through identification of this opportunity, you should do feasibility studies to ensure whether this business is viable or not. And once feasibility studies is being done, then there should be a business plan. With the business plan being in place, then with you doing feasibility studies and having the available resources, the entrepreneur can go on to execute or launch and manage the new businesses. The framework of the entrepreneurial decision process we just looked at, that does not guarantee whether an entrepreneur will be successful or not. It just gives you a logical sequence as to the steps or phases involved in the entrepreneurial process. So we therefore move on to look at the dynamics in the entrepreneurial process. In here, in this chart, the dynamic of an entrepreneurial process, here, the main focus is for the entrepreneur to continuously learn through its success and failure. From the process, entrepreneurial behavior, characteristics, skills contribute to the success may be apparent. So this chapter helps the entrepreneur to, as the business unfold, how do the success and the failures of the business, the success story and the failure stories, how does he learn from them to improve upon this chapter or his business? So to understand this means of success and failures, then we should also be able to understand the skills required for entrepreneurship. When we know that a skill basically is the knowledge that is demonstrated through action. It's a potential, if somebody is a potential entrepreneur, he should have the knowledge and should have the ability to execute his knowledge in through an action, and that will ensure the success of businesses. So in terms of skills required for entrepreneurship, we have different kinds of skills, And we'll start with the first one, which is the strategic skill. Now, under the strategic skill here, the skill here involves the ability to consider business as a whole and to understand how it fits within the marketplace. How can it organize itself to deliver value to its customers, and ways in which it does more effectively and efficiently than its competitors. So when you talk of strategy skills, here you have the ability to consider the business as a whole, how the marketplace to cite your business, how should you organize itself, how should you become more competitive to other business and make sure that the business is more effective and efficient. All this comes under the business skill. Now, the planning skill, basically straightforward, is the ability to consider what the future might offer. How would this impact on the business, and which resources and actions are necessary to prepare for it? We can also continue to look out for marketing skills. Now, under marketing skills, here we consider the ability to evaluate the offerings of businesses and their features to determine how they satisfy consumer needs and wants, and to establish why consumers find them attractive. When we talk of marketing skills, it also involves the pricing, the promotion, the distribution of products or services. So we can also continue to talk about financial skills. Here, it is the ability to manage money. Simple. It is the ability to manage money. You are able to track your expenditure, monitor your cash flow, to assess your investment, and to make projections on the potential risk that may be coming to, or that you may foresee in the future. So that is about the financial skill, ability to manage money, ability to track your expenditure, monitor your cash flow, and assess your investment terms and their potential risk. And the next skill to develop is the project management skill. Now, under this skill, your ability to organize projects, specific set objectives, draw schedules, and ensure necessary resources are in the right place at the right time. This in the right quantity of the right in the right quantity and in the right quality. Basically, this is what we call the management skill. You are able to organize projects, you set up your objectives, you ensure the necessary resources are in their right places, in their right quantity, and in their right quality. The last type of skill under entrepreneurship is the human relation skill. Involves the ability to deal with people, include the leadership skill, motivation skill, and the communication skill. In entrepreneurship, basically, you realize that this is one major thing, the ability to your leadership skill, your motivation skill. When you talk of leadership, you are able to inspire others, to get them to realize their full potential. You are able to motivate people. You are able to motivate people, and you are also able to have a good communication. These are basically some of the important the skills under entrepreneurship. We continue. We continue. Okay. So still under the entrepreneurship process, once we've been able to talk about the skills needed in entrepreneurship, then we can also further talk about the resources. So under resources, we know that entrepreneurship requires resources to transform them into products, goods, and services to satisfy the needs of society. Now, resources are basically the input that businesses combine to create the output it delivers to its customers. So basically, this is resources, and resources can take various forms. So the various forms of resources we are looking at here is basically the financial resources, the human resource, and the operating resources, or what you call the physical resources. So what is the financial resources? So the financial resources here can take the form of cash, bank overdraft, loan, outstanding debt, investment capital. Basically, it includes basic resources that are readily can be converted into cash that are needed for the business. When you talk about the human resource, basically here, it includes the management team, your lawyers, your accountants, your technicians, your other consultants. So human resource basically are the people with the knowledge and skills who contribute to the success of the ventures. Then we can also talk about the operating and physical resources. The operating and physical resources are basically the assets or the physical things that we need for the business to thrive. These include the office, the business, the vehicles, the equipment, the raw materials, the building, the money, the machineries, basically the physical things. It can be computer or any other form. Okay, we continue our discussion today with business opportunity. And here we've talked about the skills, we've talked about resources, and now we are going to talk about the business opportunity. And one important step to identify the business opportunity is to have a good idea and convert those ideas into creativity. And basically that becomes an important thing for an entrepreneur. So how do an entrepreneur get this business opportunity? This business opportunity can come from different forms, or it can take different angles. So one important ways to get a business opportunity or to identify a business opportunity is basically to look at the new venture ideas. Now, how do we discuss or how do we explain these new venture ideas? So the new venture ideas basically includes the environment in which the entrepreneur finds him or herself. So the environment in which the entrepreneur finds him or herself. So in terms of the environment, if you want to have business opportunity, you just have to look at the environment in which you are. What is the trend? What is the lifestyle of the industry? What is the growth in the industry? You can be influenced by the fashion. It can be influenced by the new ways in which products are being done. Sorry for the background noise. So let me take this side again. Sorry for the noise. Let me take this again. So to identify new ideas, we say that you can follow the environment, the trends in the environment. It can be either the economic, political, or social trend, fashion. All this can inspire an idea. So you just have to look at the environment. What is happening? How do I look at the unemployment situation? Maybe it can also be coming from the exchange rate fluctuations, the trend of the business cycle. So if you look at how things are going on, it can give you an idea. And those ideas, in terms of social media today, you can use those social media idea. Somebody does something that is new, you can factor those things into your business and to shape the ideas in there, and that will make that will give you a business opportunity. Another business opportunity we can also discuss is once you find an idea, is to new venture opportunity. A new venture opportunity. A new venture opportunity. So once the first and the business opportunities, once you've been able to have a good idea, then you should be able to convert your good idea into a successful venture. So you identify a new venture opportunity. And in identifying new venture opportunity, you must ensure that the investment opportunity strives. So the fundamentals required for a good opportunity is that you should have a good opportunity, or the new opportunity. And that the new opportunity is where you are converting your ideas into a business venture. So this business venture to thrive is where we have listed these few points to ensure which are the requirements for good business opportunity. So you have to have a clearly defined market need for the good. A sustainable competitive advantage must be attainable, growth potential, should be rewarding to the investor or the entrepreneur. The timing of the opportunity must also be right. Sorry for the noise. So to have a good business opportunity, we have just listed these 5 key things that will make sure that once your ideas have been converted into an inventor, you also must ensure that you go through this requirement to ensure that the investment opportunities are good. There must be a clearly defined market need for the products. The most successful entrepreneurs and investors are market focused. You should know that there is available market for the good in which you are trying to produce. Then another thing is you have to ensure that there's a sustainable competitive advantage. Now here, when talk of competitive advantage, is that when you go to the market, you should have, that advantage to be able to sell. Your goods should be patronized. That implies that you have a competitive advantage. There's a growth potential. You are able to every day add to your stocks. If you produce 1,000 today, you should be able to ensure that in the next few days to come, you increase the stock from 1,000 to 2,000. It should be rewarding to the investor. That is, you should have profit. You should know that whatever thing that you are getting yourself into is not making you a loss, and rather you are having a benefit from what you are doing. Then the last thing is that your timing of the opportunity must be right. You should know when to produce, when not to produce. That is one major decision that lies in the entrepreneur, which we have kindly discussed about. Now we continue with the identify business opportunities. So another way to identify a business opportunity is also to buy an existing business. And in buying an existing business, you know that it has some good side and bad side. Some of the good side is that customers will be familiar with the business. There will be an established customer base. You already have a customer base. Experienced employees will come with the business, and planning can be based on known historical data, because the business is already in existence. So there's already data to follow to know the trend in business. The supply relationship will also be in place. Inventory and equipment will also be in place. Financing may be available from the owner. So these are the advantages of when you identify a business opportunity from an already existing business. However, you should also know that it has its negative side. So when you look at the downside, though customers may be familiar with the business location may be undesirable. Maybe that is why the owner would want to sell it to a new owner. So if you identify a business opportunity, or if you are having a business opportunity through buying an existing business, you should also know that the location may not be desirable. The image of the business may be difficult to change, because what we call branding, people are used to a particular brand. It's difficult to change from that brand to another brand. For example, if maybe somebody wants to buy an Apple. Now, you cannot change Apple business to a different business because the branding has already in the market. If you change it to a different business, people will not be willing to purchase or patronize such products. The employees are inherited rather than chosen. So it also may infer. So if an employee has a bad habit or is not of good quality to the business, you have no control over them because they are inherited and chosen. Because once you are a business owner and you want to choose your people you want to work with, you basically choose people who you assess their efficacy level or their skills level and you think are needed for your business. They also may be difficult in changing the way businesses are run, because it has a laid down rule and it will be difficult for you to change the business narrative. There may also be liabilities for past business contracts. The inventory and equipment may be obsolete. That is, you need to also have to look for new or modernized means of getting new equipment into the businesses. Financial costs may also drain the cash flow and threaten the survival of the businesses. So this is one of the means of identifying businesses. We can also continue with the look of means of identifying business opportunity. Okay, so another way of identifying business opportunity or entering into the business world is also through franchise. Now, when you talk of franchise here, it is when an entrepreneur and when franchise concept here basically is explained when an opportunity to start a business that has been proven in the market. Let me put it simple. For example, an already existing business and you also want to do a similar business, you just maybe go to that the main business and you earn the right to produce the same business. However, you use the name of that company as a means of your business. So for example, uh, um, a cement factory. I don't know. Let me not use a cement factory. For example, the Apple industry. Now we know Apple produces laptops, produces phones, and other things, computers. So if somebody wants to engage or produce similar products, because of the name already existing, and you cannot produce those products if you do not have the right to produce, you can, unless you are producing a different product. Now, if you want to produce similar uh, um, Apple product. Now we have what we call the fabricated product. Now, when you are wanting to produce such products, you need the permission from Apple product. So you produce maybe in South Africa, but it's from under Apple. That is what we call franchising. So the franchising is an entrepreneur. It's also a means of entering into the business world. So with that, we can give examples as the Cash Crusaders. We can give examples as Skin Pie, Mecca Hardware, Mag and Bean, and Maxi. There are a lot of franchising business in the world today, and it is also a means of engaging in businesses. The only thing you need to do is to make sure that you get the right to operate the business using the franchise name, product, and their system. Meanwhile, you operate at a different angle and you'll be working under them. You just have to pay some quota to them. So this is another means of entering into the business world. Another way of also entering the business world or identify business opportunity is also through corporate entrepreneurship. Now, corporate entrepreneurship is another name for it. It's also called intrapreneurship. Intrapreneurship. And here it is an entrepreneurship in an existing business. So it's an entrepreneurship in an existing business. It basically occurs when a person or a team develops new corporate businesses with a business through identify a new opportunity or business idea. So corporate entrepreneurship is a method by which corporation or large businesses introduce new and diversified products or services to an existing business. So an existing business, this is a corporate business already, but they introduce new and diversified products or services to existing business. In such a business is basically likely to thrive because they are valuable wealth creators in an economy. And also one important thing is that there's already a seed capital because of its large nature. There's a seed capital to establish that business. So basically, we've just talked about the means of identifying business opportunity. We first talked about the venture new ideas. That is, you must have a new idea, a good idea, and that good idea, the second one, you put into opportunities. And once you put them into opportunities, to another ways of entering the business market is to also buy existing business, or you can franchise or corporate businesses. So basically, these are the means of identifying a good business. After identifying the business opportunity, either by the new ideas, venture opportunities, or buying existing or franchise, it still doesn't guarantee that the business will succeed, and therefore entrepreneurs are encouraged to undertake feasibility study to know that the viable nature of the businesses. Because a business is already existing, for the fact that a business is already existing does not guarantee that it's going to be successful. or once you are purchasing from a company does not mean that because every resource is already in play means it's going to be successful. So an entrepreneur must conduct a feasibility studies to determine whether the business will survive or not. And when such feasibility studies are being established, a new plan can be drawn up. So it is very encouraging that we should know that after business opportunities are being identified, entrepreneurs undertake feasibility studies to ensure the success of their businesses. Now, we continue our discussion with entrepreneurship and the fourth industrial revolution. Now, we have moved from the first industrial revolution, which was basically in the 18th century with the invention of steam energy. Then came the second revolution, which underlining it was the electricity source. Now, the third revolution, which was basically electronics and information technology, IT. And today we are in the fourth revolution. Now, in the fourth revolution here, we basically it includes the artificial intelligence, and this has an importance to ensure tremendous opportunity for most businesses in Africa and in South Africa. So what is artificial intelligence? Now, it is basically a field concerned with studying of nature of intelligence by using computers as a new and revolution tool to produce intelligent behavior. Today, we have a lot of AI platforms or technologies that are around us, and these have the potential. We should not just abuse them in terms of getting them, being afraid of, but we should rather use them to make sure that our business thrive. We can talk about autonomous vehicles that are self-driving. We can talk about social media. All these are AI, means, and they play significant role in businesses today. People use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to make sure they sell their businesses. So you can also be able to, you can now make money from all these platforms. If you have more followers on Instagram, on YouTube, you are being paid. You get some money. So these are today in the world of business, and they are helping businesses to thrive. So you should make use of AI, and it's very important today in the world of business. We started with the concepts. In the earlier discussion, we've also made mention the fact that there's differences between entrepreneurship and small businesses. So when you talk of small businesses, basically people would want to, for example, in South Africa, people would want to relate it to issues of petty traders or people with small scale businesses such as hairdresser, salon, grocer, video shop, and hardware shop. All these are small businesses. So we'd want to further understand small businesses, and also maybe explain it in context of South Africa and each role to the economy. So basically, in terms of the definition for small businesses, we basically look at, or we be able to explain small businesses by looking at the number of employees, and under the number of employees, for example, under the number of employees, for example, in the National Small Business Amendment Act, number 2204, micro businesses in the 11 different sectors are defined businesses with micro businesses under the National Business Amendment Act. We define micro businesses with 5 or fewer employees and a turnover of about 200,000 rand. When we look at very small businesses basically employ 10 to 20 employees, depending on the sector, and small businesses employ up to 50 employees with a turnover of about 3 million and 32 million. So basically, when we talk of a small business, we just have to look at the number of employees, the sales volume, the value of its assets and the market share. So as I've explained, if you look at the National Small Business Amendment Act number 29/04, it gives us the category that we have looked at in this section. Then if we can also, we can further describe or discuss some characteristics of most of the small and micro and medium-sized enterprise in South Africa. And most of them, most of the micro and the small, micro, and the medium-sized enterprises in South Africa, basically, some of the characteristics are that they are fewer than 200 employees. They have an annual turnover of less than 64 million rand. Their capital assets are less than 23 million, and direct managerial involvement by their owners. So basically, these are some of the few characteristics that characterize the small, medium, and micro-sized enterprises in South Africa. Now, we can also further talk about the role of small and the role of small businesses, in South Africa. So these small businesses, they also have, they are very key in the development process of every economy. They, one, help the production of goods and services. They help in the production of goods and services. They also can talk about the fact that they have innovative ideas. They are responsible for innovation, such as photocopying engineers and painting, personal computers, mostly are by true innovations. So small businesses too also are very important for every economy. And on that note, we will the role of small businesses, as I've discussed, they help in the production of goods and services. They are innovative. They serve as aid to big businesses. For most of the big businesses, they basically start as small businesses, and with small businesses, some of them offer services. Even the cooking industry, they may be supplying food to the bigger businesses so that those in the bigger offices could also have the comfort to work well. They also form the major sector for job creation for every economy. So with this in mind, we should know that they are very, very important, and we should not discard their importance or undermine their importance to every economy. So summary, basically, this course look at entrepreneurship. We have talked about the entrepreneurship and small businesses, their role in the economy, the entrepreneurship process, what drives entrepreneurship, the role, assess entrepreneurship, unique skills, its access to resources, the opportunities, the feasibility studies, and the entrepreneurial process. I will be online and I will avail myself for any more discussion. And I will conclude that with this course, I would plead that most of you will have the mindset of thinking into, before you complete the school, you have to be looking for opportunities, identify opportunities, venture the opportunities, and start something. Maybe you could be the next entrepreneur whose name is going to be mentioned in our next new books that will be coming up. I would like to say thank you all for this meeting.